Hey, well, Raptor is in for repair in Tagbilaran, and I'm back to the big bike. Big bike impossible in this weather for me. My friend Val, who I consider an expert rider, very experienced and skilled, and a collector of fine motorcycles, said maybe it's because you're not quite used to that bike, because the last bike that you had was like a dinosaur, an antique. Val, you're absolutely right. So here I am. I tried to get out on the smaller bike, but the traction was just not there. So now I'm walking along, and a little while back, it's funny, you never take these opportunities. You get the idea. I got the idea. I'm looking at a line of footprints, and they are barefoot. So I'm looking now. I don't know whether you can see it, but there you've got the Carabao print, and here you've got little toes. So you can see how the toes have squidged into the mud. I'm not going to find my perfect line of barefoot prints, so this is the one. And seeing that print and seeing the footprints as they walked along, just one small print, so just a kid doing his job on a farm, and here's, you can see the great clod-hopping Carabao has left plenty of prints all over the place. But I'm looking for my little boy or little girl footprints, and I haven't found them. But looking at them, it reminded me of that Christian story of how the man went to heaven, and when he got to heaven, God showed him in his footprints the story of his life. And the footprints went along as if a little bit unrealistically in a way. Well, it would be, wouldn't it? He showed the footprints in the sand, and there were two sets of footprints. Two sets of footprints, and one was God and one was the man, and God had been with him all the time, except for one particular place that the man recognized was a very, very heartbreaking moment of hardship in his life, and there was only one set of footprints. And he said, Lord, I remember this time. It was very hard. I suffered. My heart was broken. And yet you abandoned me. The Lord said, why? Why so? He said, I see only one set of footprints, so you were not with me. And the Lord said, that was the time when I carried you. Well, unfortunately, there's nobody here to carry me, and I'm walking, and believe me, the ground is harder in this particular section, but if you look at my feet, you'll get a good idea of how, as you walk along, the mud gathers and your feet get heavier and heavier until you manage to shake some of it off. So somebody was brave enough to come on a motorcycle, but not me. I'm becoming more familiar with my limits. See, there's a dog. And this is one particular place where there's a very nice house there, and another smaller one, which is kind of more traditional and very, very nice. And they've recently done a lot to it to make it pretty after the typhoon. And this one, they've done a great deal of work, and now they're putting an extra floor in, and it will look out over this lovely view. Look at that. Beautiful. Now I'm back to walking and looking for my line of footprints kept my mind off my aching back. So that was a good thing. And they must have stopped. I see that the footprints have stopped for the carabao, so they must have been home. When we come along this particular road, well, this is our road. This is our dirt road down to the highway. So this is the challenge, trying to keep upright in this. And this is actually a relatively easy section, but still it's a challenge, and my Yamaha isn't really not built for this. I'm sure that there are people who ride bikes and they ride them every day. I don't ride my bike every day, can't. But now that the Raptor is laid up, we still don't know why. The prognosis, shall I say, rather than diagnosis, is that... Is that another footprint? Well, it is, but not quite so clear. Yes, the prognosis is that it probably had some rock or something. As you can see, that there are lots of rocks here, and occasionally we hear a bang, and it will be something striking the bottom of the truck. So nothing you can do about that. That's the road that we have. And the thought at Ford was that this had happened, and in some way it has ruptured the fuel line, because when we looked underneath, we pulled into the gas station, it was still going at that point. But underneath, when we looked underneath, it was actually pouring with diesel. Didn't do that for long. So what we're hoping for... See, now I was treading like I was walking on stilts on a tightrope, and this kid is running along like it's dry weather. See, there's a young man that we take to church every Sunday. He was coming towards me as if he thinks that the Raptor is hidden around the corner. See, now this is another place. Look, if you were riding, where would you choose to go? Now, the last time I went down the middle because it looked like I'd have somewhere to put my foot. It proved to be the wrong thing, and I put it down to the traction control, because at one point I actually stopped in the middle there, and the bike just didn't want to accelerate and move on. This is a little path that these skilled Filipino bikers actually come on this, probably loaded up with their family and a bag of rice, or a pig or two, who knows. Now, the man who owns this land on the side here, hey, how are you? This is probably the boy who made those footprints, because I always see him with his carabao, and they take care of cows as well. It looks like the man has been along and made this into a steeper thing, but you can see that the bikers are still going up there. The man who owns this land was not happy about any encroachment, and his reasoning is that this might be included on the... Hey, no Raptor, okay? No truck. Yeah, he's thinking that that might be included in the road when they finally come through and do it, which is fair enough. People will argue for a foot of their land. They have a surveyor come in. A surveyor comes in and they sink like a pellet of concrete that's about 3 or 4 inches in diameter, like a tube, a tube of concrete, and they sink that down into the ground. It's against the law to move those, which of course doesn't mean a thing, and they often get moved. But they survey the land exactly, and foot by foot you get what's yours. And then chances are, if you don't make a fence around that, then you may well find that someone has moved it. So much for law and order, isn't it? So I'm nearly at my place, where I'm hoping that I won't have to stay long and wait for a tricycle to take me into Tallabong, because there's nowhere to sit, nowhere to wait. So I'll just be standing there. Oh well, this is not a bad part of the road now. There's the house of the man who he jealously guards all of his land. And he suffered quite a few trees down, as you can see. But he's not letting go. Okay, my little talk over.